Iowa has named its 3 players that'll be making its way to Big Ten football media days accompanying Kirk Ferentz. Did they get it right? Plus, we talk Hawkeyes, football, and basketball with Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register. All today, Locked On Hawkeye.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts, and you can also watch us on YouTube. While you're there, hit the subscribe button. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. If you're on the audio side of things with the podcast, 5-star reviews. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs have finished up, the sports just have stopped sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We get started today with the news that Iowa has announced the 3 players that'll be making its way to Indianapolis for Big Ten football media days. Now, I'm on the heels of getting back from Las Vegas and Big 12 media days. Indianapolis doesn't have quite the draw. Plus, I got state baseball going on that week, so I will not be able to, unfortunately, make it to Indianapolis, and I'll be in Cedar Rapids calling the state tournament games from the local teams here in central Iowa. But I will have a close eye on things, as I always do, and I'm sure plenty of information will be coming that way. Iowa will be on the second day of the gathering. Now, a 3-day event as they will go through. They will be with the second group involved in there. Nebraska, with their weird media. Well, they're not even media. They're fans. They're fan media. Penn State, which is a group of media members that just complain about everything. USC, UCLA, we'll get to meet them and learn a little bit more about those writers. And then, of course, Michigan State and Old Guard in the Big Ten. So that will be the second day of coverage. Day 1 kicks off. Ohio State will be in the spotlight that day. They're joined by Wisconsin, Purdue, Rutgers, Northwestern, and Illinois. And then the third and final day, we'll have newcomers Oregon and Washington, along with Michigan, the headliner, Minnesota, Maryland, and Indiana. So that's the setup there. And each and every program brings 3 players along with them. Who did Iowa bring? Quinn Schulte is the newbie. Great for Quinn, coming back for his extra COVID year of eligibility. A guy that is a story of Iowa football, right? Walking on, dad, a longtime coach in Cedar Rapids, a name that people certainly have known throughout the years, and another try-hard guy that turned himself into one heck of a safety, and the walk-on legacy for safeties continue. Anticipate we'll hear a lot about that. Now, the other 2 guys, I don't want to say it's disappointing because that has a negative connotation to it when you're talking about these 2 players. But we get to hear from both of these guys last season during Big Ten football media day. Luke Lachey, the tight end, and Jay Higgins. Now, both of these guys are incredible players. Both of them are already garnering All-American honors preseason. Expectations for both of these players are huge. I just like the chance to hear from some new guys. Here's something different. Now, Jay Higgins, you got the dad. That's fun. He gets to go back home to Indianapolis. I mean, that's a really cool angle personally for him. Both those guys are great leaders. It's not even a leadership thing. And I know this is something that is a huge component to it. This was also voted on by the players. This is something that the players committee that is part of the team that they put together. They make the vote, and that's how this plays out. I think probably the right way to do it is going that route. Just because these guys were there a year ago, I would have liked to see a little bit more. A guy that I want to see more than anything and hear from more than any was Cade McNamara. The questions going back to his days at Michigan, the injuries the last 2 seasons, where he is health-wise. There are so many things, and it's the quarterback, and it's the most important position in all of sport, the quarterback position. Having him there, having him at the forefront, I thought would have been a good thing. Alas, that's not going to happen. And there's plenty of other people, that you could talk about and giving them another opportunity. We've talked about Deontay Craig. And in fact, Deontay Craig potentially wants to get into this business, the sports media business, after his playing career wraps up. That would have been a really good one, I think, to hear from. Maybe one of, the senior offensive linemen, a guy like a Connor Colby that started tackle, moved to guard, Mason Richmond and what he went through last year. Listening to George Barnett earlier this week with Chad Leistikow, he mentioned that, he's played on one leg for basically 3 games and his way back and thinking he was going to shift and have to move with Caden Proctor coming in and that changing. I think that would have been a lot of good storylines coming. A guy like Sebastian Castro or even a Nick Jackson who transfers there in a year ago from Virginia and has the potential to leave his final year at the University of Iowa as the all-time leading tackler in college football history. A lot of different guys. That's not to knock the guys that were selected, but some storylines that, at least for me, I think would have been a little bit more interesting. But if there's any Hawkeye content, we're excited for it, and we got you covered here, Locked On Hawkeye. Speaking of Chad Leistikow and his conversation with George Barnett, we are going to talk with Chad. We'll do that as we continue here. This is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
Let's get Chad Leistikow in here. Well done by Chad Leistikow. Des Moines Register had an opportunity to really get inside the Iowa men's basketball program in early July, which is quite a treat for the rest of the media as we get to opine on what Chad heard, saw, and wrote about. Chad Leistikow joins us. Chad, Trent, Ken, thanks for coming on. Well done on this. Almost scoop as you had an opportunity to get inside the Hawkeye practice, etc. How are you, Chad?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just me. There was other media there, but tried to, I wanted to learn, about this program and kind of coming out of it. I know we're going to talk about it, but I felt like a little bit of energy and excitement about this program more than I've felt in a long time. It just feels like a little bit of a turning of the page and maybe not the same old.
And with that, I'll say the quiet part out loud. For the first time in almost a decade, he's going to be coaching a team that doesn't have one of his sons on there. And Connor, I loved him as a player, but I know it was derisive. I know that he was, because of some of the limitations offensively, some people just couldn't get past it and couldn't get past maybe the name on his back, and Patrick and all the struggles that he had during his career. Maybe because of that, it's just a renewed sense of, it's just a different field, not having one of your sons there. That's how I see it. How about you, Chad?
Well, I mean, it has been Trent the last, 7 years of his 14. So half of his tenure, he's had a son on the team. Yeah. No question about that. And it has been the last 7. That's, there've been, we don't know about the Sweet 16 droughts and everything. But let's not forget there's been some really nice moments in there too, and a lot of upper division finishes. In fact, I think every year it's been upper division except for 19 or 18. Yeah. And they win the Big Ten tournament a couple of years ago, and Patrick and Connor, were instrumental in that run. I mean, Patrick was, I believe, the second leading scorer on that team. So, these guys, all credit to them. But I think at the same time, we didn't get to talk to Fran McCaffrey yesterday, but I think if you gave him some truth serum, I think he'd probably say there's a little bit of, I don't want to say relief, but just a freshness for him too, that he's not juggling that dynamic, because, even if you're son, even if you're Greg McDermott and your son's Doug McDermott, there's still a family dynamic there. You've got to struggle within the rest of the locker room. And so that no longer is the case. And I think that, again, that's not what the players are saying. Like, we're so glad, there's no McCaffrey anymore, but you kind of get a fresh start. Everyone's got to, kind of make their own identity. And I think that's what I felt yesterday.
I want to talk about Owen Freeman, who looks as though he's improved his body. He's getting ready for his second go-round in the Big Ten. I thought he got a tough whistle a lot of games last year, Chad. I don't know if it was just, you got to pay your dues. You're a freshman. You're not going to get that call. Or he just, was deserved that he's just kind of a bull in a china shop. I don't think it was the latter. Do you think that the respect comes maybe more so to Owen Freeman? Because I think he's poised for an incredible season in year number 2 at Iowa.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that if, if he has a big year, somebody like Kansas is going to, come and offer him $1.5 million next year. Like he's poised for something really, really big. And I was lucky that he stayed. He absolutely looks different. I mean, just standing right next to him. I mean, he says he's put on 20 pounds, and you believe him. I mean, he looks different. I think that was part of the problem last year with the foul trouble too. I mean, you put a skinnier freshman up against Zach Edey or whoever else in the, gauntlet of the Big Ten big men. And, you might not get the benefit of the doubt on those things. But I think, he showed so much, ability to finish near the rim and just really refined big man type of game that I think you're right. I think he's probably the one guy that's maybe ready to make an even bigger jump, because if he could when he was able to stay on the floor last year, he was so effective, so efficient. So yeah, I think that's really exciting. And the big question for me is who's going to be behind him if he does get in foul trouble. They didn't really add anyone there. They've got Evan Bronze and Riley Mulvey still, but that's kind of the one question mark that I saw. I felt coming out of yesterday. It was like, that's the one position I think they got to figure out, and I don't know if they have an answer.
That's a fair point.
Well, one of the guys that you talked about a lot yesterday was Seydou Traore, the transfer.
They've got something there, Trent.
The athleticism we saw, looking at the numbers, the ability that he has. Didn't shoot it great from the outside, but a pretty good free throw shooter. There's a lot to like about him, the added athleticism. And, is there a way that in a pinch, Owen Freeman foul trouble, that they can go small, play Traore?
6'7"? 6'6"?
Is that what he is? Traore, and then
6'7",
some of the new guys, the other power forwards. So basically, instead of playing a center, you're playing 3 power forwards out there, something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Traore certainly wouldn't be the 5. I mean, he's not that tall, but he was of all the new guys. I felt like, honestly, like Cooper Koch really looks good, and sounds really good. Chris Taggio, incredibly athletic. Sherm, I put this in my article, but Sherm Dillard said he's the best dunker we've had since Tyler Cook, and he's just not going to be there as a true freshman with the outside shot. But I think you can expect some around the rim athleticism, which Iowa needs. They need rebounding. Lachey Dembele might be, in my mind, the most likely guy to maybe potentially be a backup 5, just because he's thicker, has a year of experience, like you said, could go small there. But I think Cooper Koch is going to be a 3 or 4. Same with Traore. I think Traore is probably going to start at the 4, would be my guess. He really looks the part to me. I'm surprised. He came in with not much fanfare from Manhattan. I think Drew Thelwell came with a little bit more, excitement, just because hey, he's a point guard and he's experienced, proven. But this Traore kid is legit. I mean, he looks like a polished Division I player, and he's only a sophomore. So, it's not like he's a 1-year rental either. I mean, this is a guy Iowa, can have. I mean, it's a great recruit. I mean, honestly, like if you think about it, between Taggio, Koch, and Traore and Thelwell, I mean, Fran McCaffrey did a really good job adding to his roster this year.
No, he really did. And he got another addition late in the NBA process with one of his own coming back in Peyton Sanford. So where's Sanford's head? What did he glean, I guess, from his experience? I'm guessing he's ready to go, and he would say that. But what did he learn, and how much of a leadership role that he had last year? Has he got another level of that?
Yeah, I think that's the other thing. A good point there, Ken, is because he is, the unequivocal leader now on his team. As I put in my article, is the only one on the whole roster that's played 3 seasons in Iowa City. I mean, you think about 9 of the 12 are going into their either first or second year. The other 2 are Josh Dix, who's going to be a true junior, and Riley Mulvey, who really has not been a factor in redshirt last year. So Sanford's really the one veteran guy, and he is, from what other people said about him, and he's taken a step in his game. And I think he talked about going against, guys with similar size to him in the NBA draft process, and just how that helped him out, helped him improve. And so it sounds like he's really really taking a jump too, and you can imagine that would be the case. If you're being pushed as hard as he probably was, and he probably wasn't facing anyone in Iowa practices that pushed him like that in the last several years. So I think that's good too. I mean, between Sanford, Freeman, and Dix, I think you really like the base there, and all the pieces around him really seem, it's just excitement. And I'm sure we'll get to defense here in a minute, but it just seems like there's a lot of positivity, a lot of you just look at the roster, they just look more athletic. They look thicker. They just look like a Big Ten team to me.
All right, one more player, and let's go to the other Sanford. Let's talk about Price a little bit, because that's the one guy that saw minutes a year ago. I just struggle to see, with this increase in depth that they have at both the 3 and 4 positions, I don't see Price as a 2, and you're kind of looking for more guard play. Where does he find minutes this year?
Yeah, that's going to be a good question. He's not one of the guys that talked yesterday. There were 6 players that talked. I am curious to see what Price does in year 2, because I did like the glimpses that we saw on him, for sure. I think he's basically, he's kind of the backup to his brother in a way. So I think he's probably your backup 3 maybe to Peyton potentially. So maybe you're just going to see a Sanford on the court, all the time. But yeah, I think that's the one guy to me where I don't see as, maybe he'll surprise, just because of the minutes. I just don't know if we'll see as big of a role for him, but could be wrong. I mean, they can move Peyton to the 4. Peyton played a lot of 4 last year. If they really love Price and maybe Traore isn't as good as we think he might be, there's certainly a spot, but they just seem to have a lot of players now. You don't see a lot of, quote unquote dead weight on the roster right now. And I think that's exciting too. It feels like a really solid roster. I think, it might be the last who knows? It might be the last real good year, we see for a little while, maybe not. But Peyton Sanford's a senior. Will Owen Freeman move on after this year? Who knows? Josh Dix, he's so solid. Who knows what he does next? So I just think that this is an exciting year, at least, going into it, for me to cover this team.
Well, let's talk about the defense, and it seems like there's more of a focus. I hope that's the case, because certainly something that's been lacking. How much better do they have to be, do you think, Chad, to reach towards the top of the league? Because I think that I'm with you. I think the roster is significantly better. I think McCaffrey did a great job. It sounds like Traore wants to be a guy that's also known part of his game for the defensive end of the floor. What are you hearing as far as, I know we're in early July, but what are you hearing about their newly found, hopefully, focus on the defensive end?
Yeah, I think the thing that stuck out to me the most on all that, beyond increased athleticism, that's for sure. I mean, that's an obvious thing when you see these guys in person. It's just, you trade out Patrick McCaffrey and Ben Krikke, who did not play defense. Let's be honest. They were not defensive players. Yep. And you add in, a Tajo, you add in a Traore. Drew Thelwell that was part of his hallmark coming from Morehead State. I mean, a defensive-minded point guard who passes. I mean, it's a good fit there. And then you give Owen Freeman more minutes, and he was a shot blocker. Krikke was just not a defender at all. It was just such a tough look when he was out there. And so you just automatically, they should be better on that front. But then the thing that stood out to me was that Brock Harding said when these guys went into their exit interviews with McCaffrey, you basically begged him to, let's focus more on defense this year, because we're tired of having 10-point leads in the second half and blowing them. And we're tired of, letting these close games slip away, and know that you have to be a good defensive team to go places. That's been probably part of the problem of not making a Sweet 16. You have to get stops. You can't hit shots every night. So that to me was the most encouraging, and it seemed like there's a team-wide buy-in on that. And we'll see. It's very skeptical, obviously, when you talk about that, because I don't know if Iowa has, a defensive-minded coach on the staff, so we'll see. But they all are buying in and want to be good on defense. And create turnovers, create havoc, and turn that into offense. So we'll see. It's just good you got to acknowledge the problem before you can fix it. So at least it's acknowledged.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Fair.
Get you out on this little football conversation with you. We're at Big 12 Media Days. You'll be at Big 10 Media Days coming up here in Indianapolis. Who goes with Kirk Ferentz? Who jumps on the jet?
Oh, man. I really hope they send Cade McNamara. I think that would be a good story.
Yeah, I do too.
And I think it would attract other, obviously the Michigan media and probably others too. I think he kind of deserves that spotlight. He really hasn't talked since before he got hurt. He hasn't had a true media session since before that. So would love to hear from him a little bit more about his recovery. And sounds like he's fully cleared. But if I had, I think you probably get another round of Higgins, I'm guessing, just because he's so good with the media. He's from Indianapolis. I mean, absolutely a, stellar guy with the media. Luke Lachey went last year, which ended up being a kiss of death for him. But if it's not him, I would probably vote for Mason Richmond, the left tackle. He's a really affable guy, and he could represent the offensive line. So he might be a pick. And then, Deontay Craig is also that. He could, Deontay Craig might be a good pick. He's from Indianapolis as well. Real, he represents the defense. I could see someone like that getting the nod because he's a fantastic young man as well.
Last thing for me, Chad, have you, and if you haven't, spent any time diving into, perhaps how the conference is going to play out in your mind, there's a lot of Ohio State love, obviously. Is it then Oregon? Would they be the team that most is attracting most eyeballs? What's kind of your top of the Big Ten as we approach the early July? Yeah,
before I got on with you guys, I just finished recording my Legends and Listeners show because Scott's out this week, and we had Dave Revsman was my guest, and we talked for an hour about the Big Ten, and he's on the same page he thinks Oregon's right there with Ohio State based on the coaches he's talked to, and so I think Oregon right there. I think they're going to challenge the Buckeyes. I think they're the clear 1 and 2 from what I've heard. I think the race for number is going to be fascinating because that's probably a playoff spot. And I think Iowa can be in that mix. I'm not saying they're going to be, but I think they're in the hunt for 3. Michigan's there. Penn State's there. I don't know. Maybe USC. Maybe. I don't know. It's just hard to know with them.
Huskers?
Yeah. I think it's possible. Their schedule is so friendly. I mean, they could start 7-0 pretty easily. So – yeah, I mean,
it is Nebraska. Won't be that easy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, 7-0 would get them to a bowl game, right? We're finally. So.
Yeah. Place they're not familiar with as of late. Chad, we're out of time, brother. Thanks for jumping on. Well done.
Yep.
Enjoyed the coverage in the Des Moines Register, DesMoinesRegister.com. Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
Today's episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. You know it. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs in the Big Two, winter, spring sports have wound down, we just have fewer games. The sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel, they let me keep going. Sports whenever I want. All you have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime that I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And you look at the Iowa Hawkeyes. You can bet their over-under win total. 7.5 is the number. You think Iowa's going to be 8-4 or better? You bet the over. You think they're going to be 7-5 or worse? You bet the under. You have that out there. To win the Big Ten, 40-1. That's right, 40-1 for the Hawkeyes to win the Big Ten at FanDuel. Do you believe they're going to be a college football playoff team? You can get them at plus 680 to make the college football playoff. So many betting opportunities, and it's not just Hawkeyes. They got you covered at FanDuel. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Trent Condon back with you one final time here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. A lot of great stuff for Chad Leistikow, and I think anybody that's been listening to you every dayers know I'm high on this Iowa basketball team. I was that way before the media availability going into last week, and there is nothing that dissuaded me coming out of that, hearing other people, I think, starting to jump aboard a little bit more with this group. It's an excitement, the opportunity to obviously have a team that is minus McCaffrey. And it's not a knock on Patrick or Connor. Connor, as a player, was a favorite of mine. He did so many intangibles. He was such a good leader. And though the shot maybe never came around, and though there were a couple of glimpses at times, maybe he didn't turn out to be the top 150 prospect he was as a high schooler, he still did so many good things for the Hawkeyes. And Patrick, he had a lot going on. Another one that maybe didn't hit the aspect, but just having that away, not having the extra concern that goes along with coaching your kid. I'm excited. Maybe a renewed sense of urgency for Iowa basketball coming up this season. Plus what we talked about defensively, the chance to be better on that end of the floor, I think is something to be very excited about. We got more coming up here on the basketball front, including the women's basketball team also had a media availability this week. We'll talk about that a little bit more and their chances of not just coming back to the NCAA tournament. Can they make another deep run? Lucy Olson taking off the point guard position. Some of the newbies, including players coming off injury. Guyton, maybe she has an opportunity to play a little bit earlier than we thought coming into the season. So a lot of excitement there. We'll talk about that. And of course, football, as we get ready for media day, we will get into a whole lot more and start going through the positions, talking a little bit and going in depth with each of the position groups for Iowa football. That's coming your way next week. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Hey, also want to let you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Hope everybody has a great weekend. We will talk to you again on Monday. Until then, go Hawks.